Tell you what, those beeps could go away. There's so many different beeps that go off. I've put it into reverse and I've turned everything on and there's just an awful lot of beeping going on. One thing I'll be doing is leafing through the 800-page owner's manual to figure out a way to switch all of that stuff off. Welcome to Translogic. I'm Jonathon Buckley. One thing that stayed constant throughout the tenure of Translogic is the popularity of the Toyota Prius. And every now and again, we'll give a new model or iteration a try. Well, today is no exception. So let's see what the latest evolution of the Prius is made of. All right, so time to get on with my day, my first day with the brand new Prius. So that's the old Prius. That's the new Prius. It's still a Prius, but it looks better. It's lower, it's not quite as boxy as the original one. The other one sort of sat up higher. This one's still square in the rear, but it's a little bit sleeker, a little bit longer, just a fraction, dare I say, cooler looking. Inside the car, first thing you'll notice, the white console. Yeah, I've already had to clean it just between last night and this morning. Wipe the dust and the marks and stuff on it. It's really roomy, really spacious. The steering wheel, it's tiny. I don't know if that's me or if I'm just dreaming, but it just sits down there. That's my knobbly knees, yeah. I don't know, I guess what the Prius is all about, just making things small, convenient, and easy. All right, before I get started with any of this, I have to preface it with, I've maybe been a little bit, and unfairly so, critical of the Prius over the last few years. Living in California, they're probably the most common car you will see. If you actually pay attention, I used to talk about it when we'd be driving with friends. I'd say count the Priuses, because it would literally, within a few minutes, you've counted 10 Priuses. It's kind of perfect for a major metropolitan city like Los Angeles. But what I feel that Toyota have done with the 4th generation Prius is they've just made it, and the only word that I can use that keeps coming up in my vocabulary is sprightly. Zipping around side streets or dealing with traffic is just that, it's zippy. It's got a lower center of gravity, and they've got this double wishbone in the back, which really, it really helps. So zipping around corners, I mean, there's a lot of left-right turns in LA, just, 90-degree turns and stuff. And if you're kind of darting through traffic, it's not rolling around or any of that sort of stuff. It's just burns around the corners. So it's definitely, I think, a vast improvement. There's a lot to play around with on the freeway. You've got adaptive cruise control. In that, I actually encountered a couple of situations where all of a sudden traffic is banked up. It reads it ahead of time, and it actually brakes quite hard, bringing me all the way down to 0. So it's kind of a good system. And you pair that with the lane departure warning, which has steering assist in this car, which means if I start to drift out of my lane, it actually will turn the car back. It's all really, really, really good stuff. All right, so we've got Sebastian Blanco, the editor of Autoblog Green, on the phone.
I'm standing in front of a 2nd-gen Prius, and I think this is the one that really introduced people to the brand.
It evolved in the 2nd and then into the 3rd, and
of course into the more radical change in the 4th gen. When this car came out a little over a decade ago, this defined green cars for people. It still is an incredibly clean car, very fuel efficient, but now with plug-in vehicles and hydrogen vehicles, there's a lot more players in this space.
Do you think that in its current format, with it being a hybrid that, pushes 50 miles per gallon, that they've found the right balance, or do you think they should aim more towards the full EV?
Well, Toyota is a special case in the pure EV question. They made very clear they don't believe that pure EVs are the way to go. They want to go hydrogen, and that's where the Mirai is the evolution, in a sense, of the Prius, and that's the direction they're aiming for.
Talking about the body shape, do you think it's an improvement with the Prius 4?
Yes, it's an improvement. It looks a lot better to me in person. I think they did a good thing.
Just wanted to do a quick note on styling. Now, when I first saw the Prius, I commented on the fact that the headlamps look like something that was taken off of a Lexus. If you take a look at the headlamps, you've got this sunken headlamp there on the front of the Prius. Well, it turns out that one of my buddies actually owns a Lexus, the RCF to be exact. And I've just managed to find a parking spot right next to him. And you can sort of see there what I'm talking about with that sunken headlamp look. What are some of the biggest changes that you've found with this particular fourth generation?
The looks of it, without a doubt, are what strikes you at first. If you're familiar with the Prius, you're like, wait, what is that exactly? It looks like a Prius, but it also looks different. And I do think that after all these years, it was high time for Toyota to make the car drive a little bit better.
What do you think the Prius's legacy will be moving forward? Because with 3.5 million of these cars being sold, it is a pretty important car, isn't it?
Well, for sure. I mean, this car is, it spearheaded the idea of a green car in a lot of people's minds. And I think that opened the door to what we're seeing today with more plug-in vehicles and now with hydrogen vehicles, and said, we're going to give you something very different, but we're going to give you one thing that cannot be topped, and that is fuel economy. And like you said, 3.5 million people loved it. And that's its legacy right there.
You see this one selling and being as popular as the second and third generation Priuses?
I mean, there's so much more competition now when it comes to
fuel economy, when it comes to the idea of a green vehicle. That said, Toyota will still sell a boatload of these. People love them. They know what they're getting into. And they'll just go from the second to the third to the fourth gen, and they'll be very happy.
Well, it's time for our semi-regular check-in with the Toyota Prius to come to an end, but one thing's for sure, Prius is still going strong. Regardless of what you think about this popular hybrid, this new model is definitely a lot more fun to drive. For Translogic, I'm Jonathon Buckley. We'll catch you next time.